congrats on the show. Like, how'd you end up here at Arena Social?
I met Ian, so the owner of Arena Social Arts Club, and I had a vision in mind to have a solo show. Like, that was the point that I felt like I was at, well, I knew I was at in my career, and he had like a love for the arts and already a vision, and we came together and created the space, created the show. So, yeah. It's a social arts club for Black artists to promote their work and to keep 100% of the proceeds of their work too. So it was really like a dope experience, especially for my first show,
Yeah.
To get full creative control, to get like such a big space. So yeah.
It's incredible. And that's Ian Callender is behind this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, the full creative control is a huge piece. Because I don't know if you know, he and I curated together at Culture House. And that was like a lot.
I've heard.
Yeah. So the transition from being there where you're kind of like in a box and trying to push a more corporately centric agenda to like being a true autonomous artist in this space is like total 180.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the concept for some of the like non-2D work, like what we're sitting in now?
Like what we're sitting now.
Yeah.
So I have a smaller installation. The show is actually split up between two galleries. It's a micro gallery in Northwest, and there's a small installation called Telephone, and that gallery is right next to Stevens School, which is like the first public school for Black kids after the emancipation of slavery. And so a part of me wanted to use the space and like create a space-specific piece that brought children's presence into the gallery, and that's actually what happened here too. So Telephone is the game that you used to play when you're sitting in a circle and you whisper in the ear of the next kid, and like by the time the last person is reached, like the story is different, they heard something different, and it was like a metaphor. Over time, stories are lost, or they're skewed, or they're changed. That's what I did. It was like 9 like little figures of children in school uniforms sitting in a circle with the mulch that we all used to play in, as kids, and just bringing the presence of the kids into the room. So, yeah.
That's super dope. And so that's how it ties it. I mean, the name of the show is Remember, so it connects to the kind of progression of Telephone.
Yes.
Like the next person.
Well, sometimes we just don't remember. So like for me, remember is like, do you remember? That's why it's a question mark, and it's like, you should remember, period. A lot of my childhood I don't remember. So I had to, ask my mom questions. I had to research things. I had to, because the school that I went to is not there no more, because the neighborhood that I grew up in is demolished. It's not there no more. I had to do other things to be able to remember like my past, and I want everyone else to feel like, their past was, important, to preserve, in a sense. And I feel like I kind of did that for a lot of people, like my sisters, or, my family, and people who grew up where I grew up. So, yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Prince George's County in Landover, Maryland. So right down the street.
Wow. And what was kind of the catalyst for the change in Landover? Like, why? How did the neighborhood get destroyed?
It wasn't a good neighborhood. Eventually they turned it in, I think, like a townhome community, but the crime was up. It was Section 8 housing. It just wasn't a good space. Right before it was demolished, we actually left and moved to Montgomery County, but still very local. I don't know why they knocked down like the mall and things like that, but gentrification, happens too. So, but also crime. So, yeah.
And you mentioned like research as being a really big part of your process for this show. Has that always been a part of your practice?
It has not, actually. I think I tried to get as ahead of the work as I could. And I mean, that usually I used to paint, like I'll paint my son, and then I'll paint the character. Like I'll just paint random things, what's on my mind, what's on my heart, just a real artsy stuff. But I wanted to create a strong body of work and like a series that I could show. So before I, just started knocking out large paintings, I did research about, where I'm from, and like internal research, with my family, asking questions, especially because I don't remember, and tried to just have a plan before I just started knocking out work. So yeah, that was the first for me. This is the first for for me. Yeah.
How long was that whole process? Like, how long have you been working on this series?
Since March. Since March, I think was the first self-portrait I did as a child. Up until like the last minute, you know, and the show opened October 15th. So I've been working at it for a couple months. This is my 2001 work. So I went hard this year. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and it shows. Do you feel like your 2021 work is like really distinguished from like works that you created in 2020, like when COVID really hit? Like,
so 2020 is actually when I started doing portraits. Prior to that, I used to do like blacked out figures and like silhouettes, and like I would avoid the face. And so during 2020, I started painting my son, and that was more so painting him in costumes and painting him in like just different figures. Buzz Lightyear, Spider-Man, yeah, you know, Black Panther. And so he got to be, we were stuck in the house, quarantined in the house, so he got to be in space one day. He got to be here, you know, he got to be Spider-Man on the building. So that was really tough. One, help him, like bring him some joy. But I really got, he was my only model at that time too, because we're stuck in the house. So yeah, so that was that. And then this year, what happened was I painted myself as an adult. I really fell in love with self-portraits. And for my solo show, knowing that that was the next move, I wanted to start from the beginning of my story. So I was like, start from childhood. So that's when I started pulling reference photos from, you know, photo albums that my mom had, or pulling report cards that she somehow kept 20x years later, you know, and that's how that came about. I feel like this year was more so, last year was more so trying to take care of my baby, because it was a crazy year, you know, for a 3-year-old, you know, that was that. But this year was been more for me, so yeah.
what do you feel like is like the most vulnerable work that you've made thus far?
Definitely this series, only because when I say I don't remember my childhood, like I really don't, and so I had to explore things. I had to ask questions of things that, you know, families sweep under the rug, you know, sometimes. So I had to, I'm reading comments what teachers are saying about me. I'm asking my sisters why this year I got bad grades, like what was going on at home. You know what I mean? Like this is like my actual report cards, my actual life, my actual story, and my sisters, you know, like they had to, you know, start thinking about stuff too. So this work for sure. That's my baby. Yeah.
What was like, and you don't have to answer this, but like, what do you feel like was like maybe the most challenging piece of peeling back the layers of the onion?
There's a piece in the show called Graduation Day, and it's the one with the graduation cap, and I'm holding the degree or whatever have you when you're in elementary school. But might not be able to explain why, but that piece is the piece, each series I keep a piece for myself, and that's this piece that I'm keeping for myself. And it's because like one day I looked at it and I literally cried, and I never cried over my own work before. Like I've cried over other artists, like being blown away, but like it was a moment that I was just kind of like, I don't know, I looked so proud in the painting, and like I just felt proud in that moment, and like it was like you know, whatever. So that piece right there. Okay. Yeah.
What do you hope to challenge people with, or hope that people gather from your work in this particular series?
Good question. Like you know, sometimes I'm in the gallery and I like no one knows it's me, so I'm just like listening to what people are saying about the work. It's funny how everyone interprets it different. The overall thing is like they see themselves in the work. They have 3 sisters, or they remember when report cards looked like that, or they, you know, they are going back and remembering, you know, themselves, that things that they hadn't thought of, you know, since childhood. For kids, I want kids to see like themselves in my work. Like that's why I did the sand on the floor, and like there's always a kid in here playing in the sand, and under the paintings of kids playing sand, you know, and it's that layer. And I wanted people to remember. I mean, I want my story to be remembered, you know, and I felt like my story is important enough, and I want other people to feel like their story now is important enough. So, yeah.
We out here. Well, Lex, thank you so much again for sharing your time.
Yes.
You want to tell everybody your IG handle or how to get a hold of you?
Sure. Instagram is the Lex Marie, TheLexMarie. I have a website, lexmarie.com. And yeah, that's all my information's on there.
Thanks
So,
again for your
thank
time.
you. That's cool.